Hi guys, thanks for watching my first episode. You're super cute for watching it and for giving it likes and giving so many views. I want to follow up with my journey on sock knitting and asking the question whether it's easy to get into sock knitting when you start knitting garments or not that easy. And I would say, I think for me, that journey from scarves, as you know from the first episode, into sweaters, and then dipping my toes in the socks. I didn't think I was going to knit socks. I know a lot of knitters have that they knit complicated garments and color work, but they are not keen on knitting socks, and this is for different reasons. Primarily maybe the techniques or needle sizes, or they just never thought it was fun, but it is a lot of fun. So I want to tell you about how I got into sock knitting, and it's been a brilliant experience for me. So I hope it is a brilliant experience for you too. First, I watched a full episode by, and I have my notes here again, of course, because I forget everything, from Woolen Sun. This is Camille Heng, if I am pronouncing that correctly, I hope so. A French knitter who has a full tutorial on DK socks on YouTube. And I watched that tutorial first because I was kind of in between sweaters. Sweaters is a big project to take on. So I thought, oh, something small and easy would be really nice. And I also got some sock yarn that was extremely cute in a shop in The Hague. I think they just have one wool store. It's very posh. I will try to insert some pictures of it. And they had handmade yarn from, I think, Undercover Otter, which is a dyer in Amsterdam, but they had it and that's where I bought it and I fell in love with it. I still have a little bit left. And I thought, okay, let me just try. And that tutorial on DK slow morning socks, I think that's what they're called, was incredible because actually she's using small circulars, which I knew with my arthritis I might not be able to do. So I started on 2 circulars. And as I watched the technique that she was using, meaning a short row heel, I had done short rows for sweaters, I was like, I can do all of that. You know, I can do ribbing on 2 circulars because I was doing cuffs on 2 circulars for my sweaters because I didn't really love the short circumference and I didn't really love magic loop. Magic loop seemed so complicated to me when I watched tutorials online. And then I came across 2 circulars. That was a revelation to me. And knitting, I actually started with double pointed needles for a sleeve, but after several rows, I was like, this is not going to work. This is way too fiddly. And 2 circulars just seemed like something I already knew how to do because, of course, we all use circular needles for our sweaters. So that was a revelation. I know Earth Tones Girl. She uses 2 circulars for all of her socks still to this day, and I think it's great. I actually switched to Magic Loop because I thought after doing several pairs on 2 circulars, I thought, okay, it's so, easy. And I watched Summer Lee's tutorials on Magic Loop and I was like, that's actually pretty much the same. But for me, the journey was slow. The first pair I did on 2 circulars. I loved it. I started with DK because I could use the needles I already had, the 3.5 millimeter. I had 2 pairs, which I also have 2 pairs for almost all sizes because of the cuffs for my sweaters. So that was super easy peasy. You can watch the slow morning DK sock tutorial yourself and see that short row heel was very easy to me. And I knitted the first pair, which I think was, let me just triple check, was a gift knit. So I ended up gifting it to my partner, and he really likes them. And then the next pair I wanted to make with the wool from The Hague that I mentioned. Sorry, because these are really worn, but these are the socks. So this is from a dyer called Wool with Sylvia, Vol met Verve, I think. And this I got in Amsterdam in Afstap, but this is the yarn I got in The Hague from Undercover Otter. It was one of a kind. And honestly, I love these socks, you know, because they are stretchy, they are ribbed socks all the way. It's a free pattern on Ravelry. and it's genius. So the first sock was all one color, and I did a melange of two wools because I wasn't sure I had enough. And then for the second pair, which is this one, I did the different toe and heel because I felt ready. And I really like these Kremke blockers because they don't really stretch out, especially on the top. And I don't like my socks stretched out on the top. I like them to be kind of snug around the cuff. And this pattern I've used probably 5-6 times already because it's adorable. And I also adapted now for non-decay, so fingering weight socks. And so for my partner, let me grab these, and these are well loved and well used. And this was the second pair, and that was BFL wool from Birdstreet. Is that right? From Stephen and Penelope. I will link it below. This color is called Kestrel, and that was chosen by my partner. And then the toe I mixed with just John Arbor wool because I didn't have enough, because of course it's a fingering weight skein, and these socks being decay, you hold the fingering weight yarn double. So I didn't have enough and I had to do a different toe, but that was still lovely. So I experimented with 2 circulars on 3.5mm needles, and then also 3 and 3.25, because I know Summerlee uses 3.25 for her DK socks that I also knitted later on. So these DK are really phenomenal. I recommend them fully. And then, of course, I found Summerlee online and I kind of fell in love with her. And her massive enthusiasm for socks, that is really contagious. As a result, this was my first Summerlee I'm So Basic sock. And because I wasn't shy anymore, I could do a different heel. And this was the first time me doing heel flap and gasset, which you can see here, you know, this protruding in. And I tried jogless stripes. Whether it worked is up to you to decide. And again, I love that this is not stretching. So I did a longer cuff, but she talks about it as well, different toe and heel and the stripies, because I just wanted to try everything. And the madness of not madness, the joy of experimenting with color was already sinking in. And in the meantime, as you can expect, I got this baby. Adorable, so inspiring, so colorful. I read through the whole thing and just for joy, just for joy. I haven't knit any of these yet. I have knit other Summerlee socks, also DK, like Hibernal DK. I will talk about them in a minute. And then after reading the sock project, basically cover to cover, I had to order this. And again, read it cover to cover. I even have a little errata for Summer, but I haven't been mean enough to send it to her because I don't want her to feel criticized in any way, but I spotted like some tiny, tiny mistakes. Look at these. They are amazing. I'm definitely going to make some. However, I have to say, after my first pair of basic socks, I was not really loving the 2.25mm needles. They are really small. My hands were not super happy. So then I decided, okay, I saw patterns for 2.5mm needles. I started experimenting with short circulars, with one longer than the other on short circulars. Of course, by that time I was fully on Magic Loop, because after 2 circulars, Magic Loop seemed very intuitive to me, but not at the beginning. So I think if you're a new knitter like me, just allow yourself that journey of testing different things and maybe starting with something that feels the most comfortable for you. And I can talk about my experience with sock needles in another video if you want. I did actually record one, but it was so full of mistakes. I was trying to give the sizes in US size and I was all over the place with all of that. But for me as a continental knitter, I saw that the short circulars were not comfortable at all. Not only because you're scrunching up your hands, but also because if you want to do a short row heel, you go back where you have the short needle to work the pearls, and that wasn't possible for me, even on the longer Addy needles. So just a quick run through while I'm at it. So I tried the Chaogu, the classic. You know, there are two same size needles, and they are 23 centimeters or 9 inches, so 9-inch circulars. Both needles are the same size. I didn't like that at all. I could barely work in the round. Even knits, purling was impossible. So I decided to try Addies, because Addies have one needle longer than the other, but also the total circumference is longer than the Chaogu's. It's not 23 centimeters, but 25 centimeters. And these were a little bit better. And I made this sock very recently, actually finished the second sock. So this is again the I'm So Basic sock pattern by Summer Lee, which is a free pattern. And I got the yarn from Vinted. I paired it with some alpaca for just contrast and cuteness, and knitted on 2.5 millimeter needles because it's a faster knit and it's a more comfortable knit. And I treat all of them as house socks. And I have to admit, even Summer Lee's basic socks, these ones knitted on 2.25 millimeter needles, they don't feel very comfortable for me in the shoe, but I love, love, love wearing them around the house. And the DK socks I sleep in, I wear them around the house. They're in constant use. That's why they used so well used up. And this, by the way, was a Seicia yarn from my local yarn store. I think I have one skein left because I'm still planning to knit with it. That's it. And it's a lovely blend of virgin wool, polyamide, and cashmere. And the cashmere gives it great softness. So this is part of an upcoming project that I haven't knitted yet, but it's really lovely yarn, and all of these are from that brand. Apparently they went into sock knitting not so long ago, the one with cashmere, and the color palette is limited, but it's still like rainbow colors, you know, you can do a lot with them. And then I also tested these, the short combo, which gives you an even longer circumference than the Addies. So the Addies was 25 centimeters. With this you can get to 28, where you use one of the longer needles on the right side if you're right-handed and the shorter needle on the left. And I really like that for color work. I'm going to show you in a bit. So color work is another beast, because you, with socks, it's unlike with garments, you need to fit it over your heel. So your floats need to be really quite loose. But with these needles, the Chaogu twist combo, the floats make themselves. So for me, as a continental knitter, sorry, I kicked you there. For me, as a continental knitter, you don't need to make any adjustments, because I will show you also separately, but the circumference of 28 centimeters is so large that actually it stretches the fabric for you. So I can just grab, you know, color 1, color 2, alternate without even thinking about stretching it. I know in Magic Loop you have to manually stretch the stitches on your right needle, which I've never done, to be honest with you, but I also don't feel that massively comfortable. So it's not very comfortable with the small circumference of the twist combo, but it's really nice for color work. And then for another pair of the DK weight socks, I made these. So this is Slow Morning Decay, the free pattern again. This color was from Stephen and Penelope, the BFL yarn, and it had its own name, but I just call it Strawberry Cheesecake, and that's why I added the Langewell pink to it, because doesn't it just look like strawberry cheesecake? If you know the ice cream, that's exactly what it looks like. So sometimes I wear them up top, like high up, or sometimes I fold them down, because they're a little bit itchy for me, but I'm very sensitive to it. They are a little bit itchy on my cuffs with the BFL wool, so just be mindful of that. But they are otherwise really gorgeous. And then I made my favorites, I think. Well, my favorites might be an overstatement, but I purchased another pattern from Summer Lee, like I said, kind of in love with her, and these were Barbara socks. Look at this cuteness. So again, I fold them down. These are my sleep socks. Look at that color. That's the color frog, I think, from Stephen and Penelope again. And then I mixed in some of that one of a kind from Undercover Otter again. But the Barbara sock, I played around with it. I think it's maybe written for fingering weight and not decay. But I just used the chart and I centered it on the sock. Summer has 2 variations of that pattern, and the second variation is the patterns is on the side. And I wanted to do that, but it turned out otherwise. I ended up making it in the center. So of course I repeated that in the second sock, but that's no damage to nobody because it's just, they're gorgeous. I adore them. Sorry, they're so well used, but you know, they're well loved. So these were Barbara socks and Hibernal DK socks. I love that pattern. That's a mock cable pattern from Summer Lee. That's a paid pattern. But these were a gift from my mom, so I'm going to insert a picture of those. And these I did on 3.25 millimeter needles, just like Summer Lee suggests. So in all of my DK, I played around between 3.25 and 3.5. But them being ribbed socks, they all fit very well. I didn't change anything in the pattern. Just did, you know, contrast colors for toes and cuffs and heels if I wanted to, but that's really it. So that was a lovely experience overall with, you know, 2 pairs of I'm So Basic socks for now. So the fingering weight, and I think 5 pairs because 2 were given away. 3, 4, 5, 6 pairs. I'm counting Barbara. So far in terms of DK. They knit up so quickly. They're such a rewarding knit. I highly recommend them. And for me, the heel flap and gasset, where you do the slip stitch between knit stitches and then you do the heel turn and gasset decreases, it's a bit more fiddly for me. And I found Woolen Sands DK sock recipe for the heel to work for other socks. So that's what I've been doing by default on all my socks, is adapting from the DK pattern to fingering weight, doesn't matter. You end up with 12 stitches in between your German short row double stitches, and then you go from there, and it fits me very well. And I couldn't really understand in Summer's book how she does it. I think she does the short row heel and then she goes over the foot, I think twice while doing the heel, which makes it a little bit difficult if you have a contrasting heel. So I haven't done that yet. And heel flap and gasset works very well as well, but it's, for me, it's easier to not have to pick up the stitches. I didn't do such a great job. I did quite a good job on one sock, and then on this one I didn't. So this just takes more time for me and is more fiddly. And I like to do the heel in one go and one sitting, and then it's done. And the same with the toe and Kitchener, and it's done. Highly recommend knitting socks, and you don't have to go crazy on the patterns, but you can, because it's so easy to experiment with all the different colors and textures on a small knit, you know. I bought a cable needle. I haven't done a cable project yet at all, but I bought a cable needle, and I definitely want to try one of the cable socks in the sock obsession. But the mock cable and Hibernal socks, Hibernal DK, but I think Summer also has a non-DK version, a fingering version, they are really adorable and so easy to do. And you can learn a technique, even if you make a mistake, it's just a sock. It's like a really easy learning curve. For me, it wasn't frustrating. With 2 circulars, you can continue to do that. You don't even ever have to switch to magic loop. And I think the funnest thing, because there's no way I would be knitting a sweater in this sparkly yarn, or, you know, very, very green, even though that's an adorable color, or the strawberry cheesecake. And also, as added bonus. I was in a yarn store in Utrecht. They actually definitely had 2, maybe had 3 around the center. And you can always pick up like a souvenir skein of sock yarn. And then it makes sense. You don't even have to think about it twice. You find something cute like that. After seeing Summer talk about speckled yarn or tweed, I so wanted something like that. And there it is. It's a Lang alpaca sock yarn. It was around €18 for 100 grams skein. It's 387 meters. So I can already tell I don't have enough for a DK sock, because you need, in some skeins, you have 415 meters, and that's enough for my size, which is a medium. Fairly high on the cuff, but not massively. But if you have 387, it's not going to be enough. So I'm going to do a contrasting color. And I have this beautiful hand dyed yarn from Undercover Otter. I actually ordered this. And it's a beautiful color. I ordered several skeins from her because I find her sock yarn, which is 80% superwash merino and 20% nylon, is really soft and wonderful. I know BFL is potentially better to use if you don't have the addition of nylon, but I find it a little bit itchy, while Undercover Otter and also Volmet Verve that Afstap carries in Amsterdam, that's very soft. Her twist sock yarn, I think, very soft, very pleasant to knit with. This was what I got, this color. And I find it's also such a pretty color. As you can probably tell, I'm drawn to dark grays and greens. So a lot of joy in mixing color. You can try color work and without much, regret and risk, just hone your skills. And I find that's a really good thing for me to do. Now perhaps on my whips. Let's grab them. I love these bags. This is from a Polish lady supporting my roots from Etsy. This one is really great because it stands on its own, and because it has those weighing sort of beads, it's really easy to open and close. It's very natural. So this is my first colorwork sock. And rather than use one of the many patterns that Summer has in her book, I decided to buy another one, which was a splurge. And this is a Pinwheel sock. I saw it actually in the 52 weeks of socks in the book, and it's much more colorful and absolutely gorgeous. And it's knitted all the way. So all the way, not just the foot, all the way down to the foot, not just the leg, but all the way down in the book. And now Summer Lee also has it available for purchase in Ravelry. So that's what I did. I've knitted the first one. I'm not super happy about my color choices. I decided to put in this Undercover Otter one-of-a-kind skein as 2 repetitions of the Pinwheel pattern, but I didn't do myself any favors. But here I will insert a clip of how it's going with colorwork knitting with the twist short combo from Chaugu, where actually the floats make themselves. You don't need to stretch it because they stretch all on their own. This is the back of the work. So I really love it. Of course, this was suggested by Summer Lee. She does that as well. So even though I don't knit my socks entirely her way, so I don't do heel flap and gasset, and I don't use 2.25, I use 2.5 millimeter needles instead on Magic Loop. But this technique is really great on these tiny circulars. It's a lot of fun. I use a ring. I put it on my finger like that, not fully in. I will show you some B-roll of that, so that I can grab, as a continental knitter, strand from the top or strand from the bottom, depending on which color I need. But these are so much fun, and like a lot of people say, knitting colorwork is so addictive because you just want to do the next color strip or the next repetition of the pattern, and I can absolutely attest it's absolutely wonderful. I will also link this wonderful handmade bag from a creator and maker in Poland. This beautiful bag I got from a creator in Lithuania, I think, sticking with my Eastern European roots. Unfortunately, I spilled coffee on it straight away, so I had to wash it and try to iron it into shape, but it's a little misshapen. This housed these socks, but I finished them a few days ago. And then I have this one from a Ukrainian maker. Very pretty as well. It's a little bit more floppy. It's harder to make it stand on its own, but it's also a little bit larger, I think. So here I attempted 2 at a time socks. And I have to say, I don't think I'll be doing that again. It seems a little bit too fiddly for me. It's great to have them done at the same time. So here the idea was to do Summerlee's fade technique, to fade them at the same time, so I don't have to count rows, because I find that slightly annoying. I just want to chill when I'm knitting socks. So I wanted to do, the red, and then a little bit of orange, and then the little bit of yellow that I showed you, and then the light blue, darker blue, and green, so that the socks together on both feet create a bit of a rainbow. And this is the sachet yarn that I showed you, so the colors are really pronounced and bold. But I didn't like how the fade looked on just bold colors, because summer fades speckled yarn and it looks so much better. I will insert some pictures of how it looked. So I ripped it back now to the main color, but while I ripped it back, I picked up stitches on a needle, and then I had to move one stitch from one needle to the other, and with 2 at a time that was very difficult. So I found that frustrating. I had to get another needle, put it on hold. It was not good. So for now they are hibernating themselves in the bag, and I might just continue and make them a little bit shorter, because I don't have it in me to continue with these colors for much longer. So I think I might just do that, do my rainbow idea, but then leave some of the yarn for just cute stripes. So these are my works in progress. I've talked about the needles. I think I've covered it. So if you want some help on the techniques, Earth Tones girl, she does 2 circulars. I still have to do her helical knitting socks. I really want to try these. I haven't done it yet on 2 circulars, because I think it's really easy on shorties, but I don't think I will enjoy that very much, so I want to learn on 2 circulars. Again, going back to the roots to learn a new technique. If you want some tutorials for Magic Loop, I think Summerlee has great tutorials. And then shorties, I know the Crazy Sock Lady, she uses shorties. And I think she's a continental knitter as well, where you experience the same need to have the cable a little bit longer so that your right hand can make the purls and the knits. Because with English style knitting, I feel like that's not really that crucial to your choice of needles. So I hope you enjoyed this little rant on how it goes with sock knitting. I know it's not very easy to get into, but I would highly recommend you try the different techniques and find something that works for you, because it's just a pleasant knit. It's a restful knit in between garments. It's for me, it's a summer knit, because I know summer tops are really popular right now, but for me, in my first year of knitting, I don't feel like I'm ready. I don't feel like my hands would love knitting with cotton or linen. I've had some tries in my local shops, but I'm not ready just yet. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you next time.